I think we've improved a lot on defense. I think again we continue to be multiple there. Where I like this, we've increased our size and speed of our football team overall, especially I think on the defensive side. I want us to continue to be aggressive, fundamentally sound, play the game with passion, be, not beat ourselves. I think offensively, continue to be as multiple as we can. I think we're going to have a really good quarterback battle through camp. Both do a lot of great things. I know Andy is excited about both of those guys and what they're going to bring and what we can do with them to move the football. And again, our identity offensively will continue to be as multiple as we can. But Andy and I talked yesterday. We got to be able to run the football. We got to be able to be a physical running football team. But again, I like our receivers and our ability to create things on the outside as well.
You mentioned quarterback. It's been a while since there's been a real open competition for the starting job. How do you guys handle that? And do you have like a time frame of when you'd like to ideally have a decision made by?
No, we've never sat in a room and said let's make sure we're naming a starter by this point. And again, because of both guys doing a good job, and B, I think that is our practice format allows us to get both guys a lot of equal reps and opportunities to be evaluated. I'm sure I don't want to lose sight of the fact that there's a time that who's ever going to be out there the most needs to work with a certain set of guys, and we are aware of that. But say it now, probably say it through camp. I think there's a very high probability that you'll see both quarterbacks play in games this year, and be used in multiple ways.
So is there a chance that the season opener is used to further evaluate that job, or do you want it done?
Well, everyone's going to be evaluated each and every week. The thing I think you might be asking, Jordan, is that we don't want to get into where it's a flip-flop back and forth all the time where someone goes. But at the same time, like I said, we'll use both guys. So who knows? Are you saying that is the first game like the true audition to decide who you go with from there? That has not been discussed either.
Lance, this looked like kind of a new look backfield with running backs. What are your early thoughts on watching it?
Yeah, it's about the healthiest the group's been in a while, to be honest. We've got some guys that have missed some time, and Jalen Dupree being the main one. To see him out there moving today was good to see as well. I like our backfield. I like the depth there. I think there's a lot of guys that can be productive for us, and it's going to be interesting to see how we can spread that around. But different styles of runners, different sizes, there's speed, there's power, a lot of different things that, again, I know when Andy and I kind of talk about where we're going, there's a lot of different ways for us to be creative with that group.
Felt like the secondary, maybe safety specifically, was a position where injuries prevent you from getting the full picture in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're getting more clarity about that, and what do you want to see from them over the course of this?
Yeah, again, it's only one day, but there's more bodies out there. They're not wearing yellow jerseys, and they're cleared to go. So it's going to be a great question to answer probably in a week's time when they're really out there. We can see when we have shoulder pads on where that's at. There's a lot of able people in that safety room. Who's going to take charge and solidify themselves in order to be the guy out there is yet to be determined. Who's going to be confident in making calls and communicating, and then, of course, fulfilling the role that's needed to play there, as well as the nickel position. But I do like the options that we have. Henry, the thing, again, as you said, we don't want to get into where, we got able bodies. We want to give guys good opportunities. There could be some rotational things there, but you don't want everyone to think that if I make one mistake, the other guy gets going, and you keep flipping, and you don't have any continuity back there.
Lance, you already said size and speed
Mm-hmm.
defensively have improved. Are there other areas that make you feel like your defense is better? Are there any that really?
Yeah, I do think, up front we're better. I think there's more depth. I definitely have more depth at linebacker than we've had. Not against anyone that was here in the past or it's still on the roster, but, last year, we're a play away from playing a walk-on and things like that after we lost a guy or two. So I like where that's at. We got to stay healthy through camp, of course. again, confidence, size, speed, and our defense is communicating better, which means they're playing more confidently. If they'll speak up, again, everyone will be on the same page, and I think we have a chance to be better in that regard from the jump.
Has anyone triggered that, player-wise? Obviously, your coaches are preaching it all the time, but the
Yeah.
communication part of that,
I think all our guys, from safety-wise, Taylor Davis, this guy that's played the most, has been there the most healthy through the spring. I think Trey Lathan's had a really, really good summer and off-season about stepping more into a leadership role and understanding what we need from a Mike Backer and how that really kind of filters through the defense. I think he's done a nice job. We talked about Quincy Davis being there as well. Bam Crouch is another guy that has been able to do it. But we're getting more across the board, and you can see that kind of leads to a lot more confident group of guys.
On the topic of defense, at 312 media days and some other coaches talk, the topic of versatility defensively came up a lot. I know that's something that DK last year you guys really tried to have. When you transitioned and picked DK as the defensive coordinator, it seemed like that would be a key piece compared to maybe in the past where it's been a little more, you have a scheme and you use it versus mixing up fronts and all that stuff. Why with DK was that something that you wanted to go with the direction of the defense?
Could you kind of phrase that again? I'm not sure if I'm
So
understanding exactly what you're saying. I'm sorry.
From Coach Bowen to
Yep.
Coach McDonald, right? Going from having kind of straight four-man front,
Yep.
4-2-5, to
Yep.
now where it's
Yep.
3-man fronts, 5-man fronts,
Yep.
4, like doing all this versatile stuff. Why was that a direction you wanted to go with the defense?
Again, it's just something as to be able to match up against different personnel groupings and seeing what we could do with personnel-wise to be a better defense consistently against a run. Now, it hasn't shown itself completely yet, but I do think that our guys in a second year, just like I've said before, is a lot of us are a lot better in year 2 than we are in year 1, and I feel that our guys understand it more. They see the understanding of I keep saying communication, because it was so important last year. When guys were hesitant, we're not on the same page. We say it many times in our meetings, is that we could be wrong, but if we're all on the same page being wrong, we still have a chance to make it right. But when half of us are thinking this, the other half are there because nobody's communicating, that causes a lot of issues, and it did last year. So, again, DK's vision on being multiple up front, getting some bigger bodies on the field from time to time against certain personnel groupings was very important to us. But of course, then playing with a nickel and being more athletic in the back seven was something else that is there. And that's you see many programs do it in college football. You see it a lot in the NFL, all those different things. And for us to adapt to that, I thought was something we needed to take another step as a program.
And looking at the camp schedule overall, have you guys tweaked the way you guys are doing it this year? It seems like maybe 3 days on and 1 day off.
Yeah,
First full
yeah.
pass.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit of, it's a great question. We're going to, as we said a year ago, or I should say a year ago in the spring, that we had to look at a lot of different things to make ourselves a better football team. And one of that is how we practice, the length of practice. How can we be a fresh football team, stay healthy in a lot of different ways that we're looking at it. The way the calendar has fallen this year allowed us, some years we actually reported a day later than we could have, okay, which allowed us right away to jump into football meetings and activities. Well, yesterday's a day that's an administrative day. Well, we went back to that. That allowed us now, the way it flows into the first game, is that we could be on 3-day cycles. And again, our players are excited about it. And as we get into the season, probably share with you more that we're going to modify some ways that we practice during the week. And again, I've stood here before and say, I've got to be open to new ways and try to find ways that keeps us fresh and gives us the best chance to win. And I think our fall camp schedule is one of those ways to do it. I jokingly said to our guys, not really joking because it was fact, is today really starts my 20th year as a head football coach. And today we are on the field for probably 65 minutes of practice. My first practice as a head coach, we had 31 periods of 5 minutes apiece. Okay, so times have changed in 20 years, and there's different ways to go about it. And and the day that you're too stubborn to want to change, you're not going to have a chance in this thing. So I feel good about our camp schedule. I like where it's going. I think when we approach game week, I think our players will feel different than they have maybe in the past.
You mentioned linebackers. Landon had announced on social media that he wasn't going to have another season of eligibility. Did that decision come as a surprise at all to you guys?
Rulings these days don't surprise me anymore which way they go. Disappointing is the word that really came about, that all the information that we had received from on Landon Watson from his transfer was that it was going to go through there was some missing documentation at the start. Backtracking on that became difficult. We thought we had everything in order, had the people that gave the information that we thought we needed to make it happen, but nonetheless, unfortunately, it was denied. So, and then a tough way for someone to find out that their eligibility's been exhausted. But yeah.
On the injury front, is there anyone limited or otherwise earlier?
Anyone you have in mind that you've been waiting to ask me about that you want to go through?
Trayvon.
Okay, so you've been asking about Trayvon. Okay, Trayvon was injured in the spring, had surgery, and he will not play this season. Okay, and we've taken the steps. I think most of you probably knew that already. You're just waiting for me to tell you. So, we have filed the waiver and everything in place, and all things that he'll be a Jayhawk next year if that goes. Barring any type of small mirror, he's moving really well. He's probably ahead of schedule, but still an ACL is an ACL. So. And then Justin Thurman, unfortunately, was injured at the beginning of the summer as well, and he'll miss the season as well. So those two are not available at this time. Everyone else, Conley Hovey and Grady Seaford, are not practicing at this time, and they'll return probably to full activity. Probably, I would hope, when we return from England.
Couple quick things. First of all, just since you mentioned the rulings, how have you guys reacted in the last few days to Friday night's ruling and just, I guess, the 5-year eligibility stuff more broadly?
5-year eligibility things are, again, there's, as you continue to look at, we're all looking for some consistency on how we can put rosters together, what eligibility, get out of the waivers, all these different things, as I just mentioned, waiver, but that is good. That is something that I think a lot of us had hoped for a while. Last Friday's ruling is timing's unique, of course, and all those things, and then it kind of changes a little bit here and there. Obviously we continue to research, and if there's any ways to improve our roster, if that's an option that we can do, we'll look to explore that. But after the initial ruling and then other clarifications, the amount of people really shrunk there quickly from what everybody thought that would be available and whatnot. So we'll see what happens there. But again, we're on top of it.
And then, I mean, even since we last saw you, you've added a lot of analysts new to the staff this year. What kind of qualities were you hoping to bring in with some of the new guys?
Yeah, we got a lot of new. That's analysts, assistant position coaches. I want to, if I make sure if I don't miss people, we talked about John DeFilippo, who's been an NFL coordinator, is great for the offensive room. Kevin Johnson's working with the running backs is another fine addition. I'm trying to go through. David Parker was somebody that Andy worked with at Penn State, was at the University of Tennessee. And again, when a guy wants to leave an SEC program to come work with us and get back on offense was something we felt was a great addition. He's been at Arkansas, Nebraska, Minnesota, brings a lot of different perspectives and a fine coach. Bobby McMillan was with Jerry Kill at New Mexico State. He'll be working with our linebackers. Was at Utah State, and then most recently at Southeast Missouri. Somebody that DK was very familiar with at Iowa State. And then probably the addition with obviously the most experience was Dwayne Aquina. Dwayne's outstanding football coach, a veteran, most recently at the University of Texas. Been at Texas. I met Coach Aquina probably over 30 years ago when Rob Iannello and him when he worked together at Arizona, when Rob and Dwayne were talking, and he was still looking for an opportunity to make a contribution to a program. And we had conversations. DK was always impressed with the work that he's had. You know, you can look at the All-Americans, the Thorpe winners, all those things. He's a very accomplished coach who has a lot of energy, and he's going to be a big addition to that defensive meeting room. I hope I hit them all. And if I missed anyone that was old, I apologize. But good.
Anything else, Coach Leipold?
Anything else?
All right.
Appreciate it.